I'm going to be talking about book suggestions using set theory on Python. My name is Bharatram. I'm from Akshara Ball International School. Um, I have been fascinated by this by reading books, and I wanted to know which books I could read next. But there was no place where I could actually see which books I can read next. So now I wanted to build a recommender which basically recommends which books I can read next based on other people's preferences. I have done this using math modeling, which is very useful to solve real life problems. I had to ask questions to solve problems in a step by step process to ensure the solution has a strong foundation. So my idea so basically the project, as I said, is a book suggestion website with the purpose to help readers choose the next book to read based on other users' previous reading habits. So basically, the features of this recommender would be it'll have a library of read books. It'll track the number of times each book has been read, and it'll recommend the books based on the reading data. I have built the code in Python. Set theory. Sets are distinct collection of objects. Sets can be used to compare data and infer information which is not directly available. So as you can see in the picture, there are 14 people who like guitar and 24 people who like singing. So and we can easily find out that four people like both guitar and singing. So if we have something like an orchestra, we can give these four people more both jobs. So that's just an example of where we can use sets. So we'll take this example. Person A has these four books which they like the most, and person B has these books which they like the most. And now, if you see, both of them like The Great Gatsby and War and Peace. So, a person who likes Adventures of Huckleberry Finn could like Lord of the Rings because they have books lots of books which both like in common. The outline of the site. Users can create profiles to avoid re-entering past books read. This just helps them. And we can also have a section which includes popular books and new books for various genres for easier access. And what I thought was, after the reader reads the recommended book, the reader can fill out a feedback form which rates the recommendation to improve further book suggestions. um, these are um, these are the possible errors which could come up while building the site. So if there's a new book being entered, what we can do is we can just recommend all the most popular books if we don't have the new book in our library. The next error is bias data. So what I mean by bias data is, if the site is used extensively by scientists and then a 7-year-old comes and uses the book suggestion site, the data won't exactly be suited for his needs. I think this error will go as more people use the website. The next error I thought of was that there could be differences in languages. So if a person searches up an English book, if a person says they have finished an English book, but then a Spanish book is recommended, that won't be proper. So I thought of only recommending the original language. So there's also the problem of having incorrect genres. So let's say that there's a person who likes reading science papers and who's also read science fiction books. So that means if a scientist comes and they search up science papers, science fiction books could also come, which could not be very helpful. So I thought of having similar general topics like for thriller and crime, which is pretty similar. And there's also the problem of age issues. So a 7-year-old wanting to read a picture book getting recommended a very in-depth book, say, which a 16-year-old should read. So I thought asking age could help. Even if less people respond, we will still have responses. And then the next problem is that there's new and popular books. As I said before, we can have a section for each book. There's also the problem of incorrect name entering, which is when the users type in the name wrong, which could um, make repetitions in the library. So I thought of having a process of ticking to choose the book. Now I'm going to be explaining the code. So this is basically the code. There's a section. I've done this in Python. That's the top section is basically the manager section where the manager inputs the books, and then this is where the user interface. This is the user interface. So um, so if you see the manager, so when the user opens it, there they can see these two books and they can type the book they plan to read. So they can type the book they have read, and this first order is always same, but at the first, but as the library gets bigger, the order will change. And then after the user selects the book they plan to read, the it will add to the count, so it will help in ordering these suggestions. So now if you see, it's Alice in Wonderland, the BFG, and Philosopher's Stone. But after the user has typed in their choice, if you see, it's BFG, Alice in Wonderland, and then Philosopher's Stone. So this is basically how the code works. This is the manager section. So there's basically six count variables, as I said, for the count value to be increased. Uh, the manager also inputs the book names. Since in Python we cannot store values, we can actually use databases, which I realized later. Then the manager has to enter the name every time. So this is basically the entire user section code. What I do is um, two books are after the two books are entered by the manager, we send that to the user. When the user types say 1, it connects that to the respective book. So as I said, a predefined order of books is set. So the predefined order is Alice in Wonderland, BFG, and the Philosopher's Stone. But if you see, we can add the count variable so that um, the recommendations will be in order. So the books are entered by the manager. When the user types 1, it connects them to the respective book. A predefined order is there before the user interaction occurs. The recommendation order depends on the book past users have read. The count of users planning to read the recommended book is increased every time. If the user types 2, the code is again replicated but with a different count variable, so that we don't have it, so that the code doesn't go wrong. And if the user just wants to stop, they can finish, they can type enough and the loop will break, so they can come out of the loop. This is my reflection. Recreating a book suggestion site was challenging but was also very fun. Since I like to code in Python, it was interesting to combine that and set theory to create a book suggestion code. My liking to reading books also helped. This process helped me understand how sets are linked to our everyday life. This process also helped me new things in Python like dictionaries. I want to develop this code further by having the values in a database and making the recommender more powerful. Um, mathema- um, mathemo- Using mathematical modeling will hone innovative thinking, helping us solve real life problems. I recommend all of you to also do hobby projects to think more critically. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bharatram, for that kind of overview of how you developed this project and made it in an implementation in Python. Nitlan, can you start with your presentation, please?
Yeah, sure. Can everyone see? My name is Nithilan Sankran Haris. I'm from the Finnish International School of Tampere and in level 4 in the Steps in Math program. So, I've made a mathematical modeling project on set theory. I will be going through that in this presentation. So, the idea of this project was to apply my knowledge of sets in a real life problem, as I've been studying it for the past 3 months, and I thought it would really help me understand sets better if I applied it in a real life problem. Now, a question for you all. Where do you see sets in real life? Just think about it. Well, for example, sets are used quite a lot when you do online shopping. Have you ever wondered how you get recommendations? Thinking about this led me to the idea of making my project about giving readers book suggestions based on previous books that they have read. So, to do this, I've collected data about books people have read, and I have formulated a Python code based on it. So, I will be going through exactly what I have done in this project, and I'll also briefly explain the code I have made. But before that, I'll explain the mathematical modeling process by the Jim Foundation. So, the first step is to always ask questions. Normally, you'll get an open-ended problem, and you'll have to ask questions to approach the problem. However, this mathematical modeling project was slightly different as we were given the mathematical topic of set theory and asked which topic it is applied in. So that changes the order of stage 1 and stage 3 a little bit. But stage 2 is the same, so we make assumptions. In my project, the main assumption was to decide that I will be using a Google form to collect the data. And then, of course, stage 4, analyzing and assessing, also called fallback analysis, a very important part of this project. I will also be going through that after I've explained the code in this presentation. So this is how I started. I first started by thinking of cases when set theory can be helpful. So I thought that set theory may be helpful in book suggestions, and therefore I chose that to be my topic. Now, this also includes a lot of data and data collection. I enjoy working with data in general, so this way this was quite a suitable topic for me. Now, as I just mentioned, the first step is to ask yourself questions. So one of the first or most primary questions I asked was what questions should be asked in order to collect the data. And I also thought how I was going to collect the data. And well, this is already stage 2 that I decided to collect the data with a Google form. And well, I only got 13 responses first, which is good and sufficient for the start. But of course, all the suggestions won't be that relevant yet, and there will be problems. I will be going through them shortly. In the form, I collected the respondents' favorite book, favorite author, other preferred books they have read, other authors, and their age as well. And with the press of a button, I made an Excel sheet out of the responses. This is completely automatic. However, this didn't give me the result I wanted immediately, as I got the set types in this format as well, the set being the person or the number of respondent and the elements being the book names. For my project, I wanted it to be the other way around. So like down here, that I have the book name as the set name and the people who have read it or the numbers to be the elements of the set. So after I had my sets in this format, I moved on to preparing the code. So first, I entered all of the sets in this form. So book name being the set name and the numbers being the elements into Python, which is what I've done at the very top. This is a good way to start because if I get new information later, then all I have to do is update the element numbers at the top, and then the code will still function. I won't have to go and edit the entire code. Second, I made a list of all of these sets. As you can see, there's set list here, which contains all of these sets. So basically, in the set list, Harry Potter eventually matches with the numbers 4, 6, 7, 9, 12, and 13, which refer to the number of respondent who has read it. Third, I asked the user to input a book they have read from a given list of 6 books, which are these 6. and their input will be matched with one of these sets that I mentioned, that I just said at the top. So that will be used to make give them a suggestion. So moving on, step 4 was to make intersections of the input set and all other sets. This basically means that, well, I'll first explain what an intersection of two sets means. So, for example, if we have two sets, Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, the intersection of Harry Potter and Percy Jackson would be 9 and 13 because they are the common elements that belong to both sets. So, first, I made the code check all of them. So, for example, if the input was 1, meaning that Harry Potter is the book read by the user, then it compares Harry Potter to all the other books and sees the intersections. Then I check the length of the set intersections. The length of the set intersections means like how many elements there are in the intersection. So, for example, I just mentioned that 9 and 13 are the elements in the intersection of Harry Potter and Percy Jackson. There are two elements, meaning that the length of intersection will be 2. I made the code check all the lengths of intersection with Harry Potter, so matching Harry Potter with each of these books. Then I printed the book name that has the highest length of intersection with the user's input book. So now that we saw Harry Potter and Percy Jackson have a length of intersection of 2, Harry Potter and Wings of Fire would have 0, Lord of the Rings 0, Diary of a Wimpy Kid 1, Captain Underpants 0. So based on that, we can see Percy Jackson has the highest length of intersection with Harry Potter. That would make Percy Jackson the book suggestion that I give. You can even see it here in the output that it asks you to input a book you have read, and if Harry Potter has been read, the user enters 1, then Percy Jackson is given as the recommendation. Then there's, of course, the very possible case that someone has not read any of the 6 books. So in this case, I recommended the most popular book in the set. It's very simple to figure that out because you just have to look at these sets up here at the top again and look at the length of the set. Which set has the longest length? Which means you just look at which set has the most amount of elements. And it's clearly Harry Potter that's the longest set. So as we can see here in the output, if you enter 0 that you haven't read any of these books, you get Harry Potter as your recommendation. Moving on, let's see how you can continue from this. This is the fallback analysis I mentioned in the beginning, or stage 4 of the process. So going through possible problems and gaps in the solution and thinking how they can be fixed in the future. So I could write a similar code for the authors and genres as well once we have more responses. This way the recommendations will be a lot more relevant. For example, now the highest length of intersection was only 2, meaning that it's not likely that the person will like both books if it's only 2 people that have liked both books. So eventually we can have authors and genres to filter out as well and take the reader's age and interest into account for the same purpose, that we give them more relevant results. So if a kid uses a website being used by scientists, then the kid won't get a suitable recommendation. So these things will make the website more trustworthy and better. Another problem is that there are only 6 books to choose from at the moment. And I believe that this should increase with the amount of users. And to ensure that this happens smoothly and efficiently, I could add a program to collect the data from the responses. So if someone uses the website, it will collect their favorite books as well. And this way, the amount of books to choose from will keep growing. My own learning from this. Well, I deepened my understanding of set theory with this project. I would say this applies to any concept you learn. Think where it can be applied in real life, and it will deepen your understanding. The project also improved my mathematical thinking, especially application of concepts. This is very important because in school you learn a lot of concepts, but you need to know when each concept is appropriate and applicable. Furthermore, I enhanced my programming skills in Python. Coding is becoming more and more important, so this was an additional benefit here. And I would say the most important thing was that I learned how to do fallback analysis, which was the previous slide. That I go through what I've done and I identify gaps in the solution and try to fix them. So, as a summary, these projects are a great way to apply what you have learned practically for anybody, and it will increase your motivation and interest towards learning as you know the benefits and you'll understand exactly where in life it can help you. This should boost you in your studies. This project is also very interesting because it is completely your own data, your own questions, and your own assumptions that you do it with. Normally in school, you will just get a question and you just need to put your answer to it. But now you get to make everything yourself, and this should boost your confidence on working on mathematics in any field. And in general, I encourage all of you to try applying what you have learned in a practical way in math and in all other subjects as well. It doesn't have to necessarily be a project every time. You can also just briefly think where a concept can be applied whenever you learn a new concept. So, well, the sources I've used for this are from the Gym Foundation. And I heard some of you in the junior level of the Steps in Math program also have mathematical modeling projects. And others too, if you want to try, then good luck with those. And thank you for listening to me.
Yeah. Thank you, Nitlan, for that wonderful presentation. Both of you have kind of highlighted why mathematical modeling is so much of impact in your learning experience. So, let me just share the my screen. I hope it is sharing. Yeah. So basically, I kind of enjoyed guiding them both, but then it is their own work, like Nitlan had rightly mentioned. They started asking questions and going through this entire mathematical modeling process, reaching out to people, collecting, and both of their solutions are different. And the thinking process on what are the things we need to think, right? So in this AI driven world where everything can be written on a fraction of a minute, but then what how I can apply this concept and develop a new idea and serve it as a kind of a real life scenario is what the demand of the current situation. So that I think they have brought out clearly well, and also understanding the limitation of their own level. So thinking big but then acting locally in their level and figuring out what is the limitations, what is the fallback analysis, what are the possible errors that can come up. So this way I think their learning also has enriched, and I hope all those who are in the meeting in this session also kind of got a good understanding about why mathematical modeling is important, and how it can enrich the learning of the students. So thank you for joining, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask now. And I have shared a small feedback form which will help students to kind of tune in their presentation and working in detail. So any of you, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask now. Any questions? Any of you? You can also share your comments about the presentation they had on how they linked set theory with the book suggestions, kind of an application. Your voice is not audible. Yeah, thank you. Anything else from someone before we end the meeting? I would uh, kind of request the session participants to share their feedback. Just take a minute. It's a very short feedback form where you can share your comments and how do you feel about this presentation. So we'll wait for 2 more minutes if for anyone to share their comments and any questions they may have. Okay, so if there are no questions, maybe if you would like to see a quick demo, we can have it. Nitlan, Nitin, would you like to show your demo first, if you have it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And Bharatram, you can do the next.
Yeah, so here is my code that I had a screenshot of. So running this code shows the same text that I just showed you. So in the code, I had an example of Harry Potter being the book read, so I'd entered 1. We can also give it a try with Percy Jackson being the red book, so I'd enter 2. And then if I press enter, now it gives 2 recommendations actually, Harry Potter and Wings of Fire, because both have a length of intersection of 2 with Percy Jackson. So it changes based on the book given, and sometimes there can be 2 recommendations as well if both are equal.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin. And maybe Bharatram, could you quickly go through your
Yeah.
demo?
Just a second. I'll just open it. Yeah. So, for example, I'll just give the book Geronimo Sultan, and the second book has Diary of the Wimpy Kid. And now the user section starts. And now, say I've read the Geronimo Sultan, so I type in 1, and so this is the books which I plan to read. So say I want to read Philosopher's Stone, I type in 3, and now if you go to 1 again, so this is another user. So if they want to go to 1 again, so if you see, the order has changed. And now I say I'll give 1, 2, sorry, and now I want to end the loop, so I just type in enough and the loop ends.
Okay, so that kind of real time they change the preferences of the recommended books. Okay, good. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nitlan and Bharatram, for sharing your entire journey and also the demo of the code. I am sure that this would really kind of inspire the students to think on whatever concept they learn, to connect with the real life scenario and also take efforts to kind of implement it